back down and shut your trap. It's time for
Keeping It Sports with M3.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Well, I'll need some beer.
Are you ready?
You have to ask me nicely.
Come on now, don't be bashful.
Are you ready? Are you ready for
Place for the best sports talk and news surrounding each league.
I can prove it with my usual flawless logic.
Hey man, this time we're gonna do it my way.
What's your name again?
And now, here's your host, M3, Mike Rosansky. Coming to you from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It's time for Keeping It Sports with M3, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everything's going well for you here on this Monday, the 22nd day of November. Just a couple of days away from Turkey Day, Thanksgiving. I know you're all excited. I can't wait myself. Looking forward to it this year because, hopefully we're going to have more of a normal Thanksgiving. I mean, I know nothing in this world is as perfect as we would want it to be, as normal as we would want it to be. But, we make the best with the situation. We make the best with what we got right now in this crazy pandemic that we continue to go through. But so is life. Now, I'll save the football for later, and there's a lot to get to because there's a lot of things that intrigued me from yesterday, and of course, if you know me, there's definitely a big thing that annoyed me. But the first thing I gotta get to is, the news that I'm surprised, the shock, surprised the outrage by over this last week. And that was the departure from the Mets of Noah Syndergaard. Noah Syndergaard, who, last Wednesday, was it? It was announced that he would be signing, or Thursday, last Thursday, would be leaving the Mets as a free agent and signing a 1-year free agent contract with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. And on paper, you look at it and you say, no, that's actually a pretty good deal for Noah, considering he's thrown 2 innings the last couple of years. He has had trouble staying healthy even without the Tommy John surgery because, as we know, Noah Syndergaard, like many athletes these days, has a propensity to, work out just a little bit too much. And, to take a 1-year deal after pitching all of, as I said, 2 innings the last couple of years, gives him a chance to go out, have a good season, and then reprove himself on the open market for next year, where he can finally get that big long-term deal that every athlete looks for. Sometimes when it comes to, contracts, every athlete wants to get paid. They want to get the biggest average annual salary that they can get. At the same time, though, they want that security. They want, multiple years on their contract. No one wants to go through that 1 year take it or leave it kind of deal, because who knows what can happen. Sometimes you're forced to go through that, whether you're coming off a down year, whether you're coming off of injuries. you're forced to reprove yourself in the minds of others. So this is good for Syndergaard because he gets more than the qualifying offer. He gets about $3 million more. The Mets offer him 18.4. He takes 1 year for $21 million. He goes in. He doesn't have to be the ace of this team. We know that Shohei Ohtani is the ace of the Anaheim Angels. And one thing I haven't heard anyone say, this actually just came to my mind just now. Now, with Syndergaard coming off of Tommy John surgery, you don't know how much he's going to be able to pitch next year because we saw how Matt Harvey was his first year after Tommy John surgery, where he looked good early on, but clearly he threw too much, and that led to his downfall. That led to the injuries that have kind of have him hanging on by a thread to his baseball career. But with the fact that they have Shohei Ohtani on a limited pitching schedule, they pitch him like once a week, once every 6 days, something like that. With that kind of space and apart, now maybe and learning how to do that with Ohtani and protecting him, maybe they're the best organization as far as protecting Noah Syndergaard. Because you figure what's the most he's going to pitch next year? Maybe 25 starts, maybe 160 innings pitched. You can't go into next year with Syndergaard thinking that, oh, you're going to get a lot out of this guy, that this guy you can rely on to go 200 innings, make 30 starts, because the last time Noah Syndergaard, it'll be 3 years by the time Noah Syndergaard takes the mound that he pitched close to 200 innings. So the last time he did that was in 2019 when he threw 197. But with the fact that they have to baby Ohtani along, it gives it's presented them with the perfect blueprint of how to do it with another guy coming off of Tommy John surgery who's limited in what he's going to be allowed to do. But the thing that has struck me in the last couple of days is the outrage by Mets fans about this. You know, directed at him, directed at the Mets management, and the Mets fans saying, "Oh, he said they were going to work something out. He wanted to be here. Where's the loyalty?" Well, let's face it, a player's loyalty is only to themselves. A player's loyalty is only to themselves and their family, doing what's the best for their situation as far as current and long term. No, do you really think that he was going to just turn down $3 million? Now, who knows? Did him and his agent come back to the Mets and say, "Hey, here's what's being presented to us. We'll give you a couple hours to match it, or we're out"? Or did they just take the deal and never get the Mets involved, never give them even the slightest hint, the slightest chance of matching this offer? Now, that there's been differing stories on that front, but the problem became here for the Mets that they didn't have a general manager at the time of this. Yeah, we had heard about a week ago about Billy Epler, how he was going to become the Mets general manager. But the deal wasn't complete, wasn't official until the end of last week. And that would have been a tough ask. it was Sandy Alderson. See, this is the problem with how the Mets are running the organization right now, because Sandy Alderson was the one making the decisions as far as qualifying offers for Noah Syndergaard and Michael Conforto. Now, he put something in the lap of a new general manager now in Billy Epler, that he would have been taking the job right away and had to have made a decision on, when he's still thinking about, how moving his family across the country, getting settled down here, and then trying to build the organization in his own vision with selecting a manager, that manager putting together a coaching staff, him talking to his scouting department on what free agents they were going to be interested in. Maybe in Billy Epler's mind, he wasn't looking at Noah Syndergaard as a guy that he wanted to hear a long term. Now, maybe he would not have decided to have him for this Mets team. So that was a tough position for them to be put in. Plus, Met fans have this love, I forget what the exact wording was. It was, I remember I found this out via text message at work from my brother, and he was saying, this is a tough pill to swallow. I'm like, no, a tough pill to swallow is the Mets letting Zach Wheeler leave as a free agent to the Phillies and never making an offer. I think we're forgetting some things here when it comes to Noah Syndergaard. The guy's always had a lot of talent. He throws a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. His slider has been clocked in the mid-90s at certain points in his career. But, it's been a while since he's pitched to the reputation that we talk about Noah Syndergaard being. Remember, he's been an all-star one time. That was in 2016. He got off to a good start in 2017 before he tore his pec muscle and missed 4 or 5 months because he spent too much of the off-season weightlifting and eating venison, putting on something like 15 to 20 pounds of muscle, when most people say that is the worst thing that any pitcher can do. And, instead of listening to Mets team doctors along the way, every time he gets injured, he's been a guy that's at times been a pain in the ass to deal with. Sometimes it feels like he cares more about his damn nickname Thor than he does about being a truly great pitcher. Hell, even on his way out of New York here, you're seeing him get into a Twitter war with New York sports radio legend Mike Francesa over the last couple of days. He's a guy that's a little bit too sensitive, always, wanting to be on page 6, always wanting to be in the spotlight, in the headlines, rather than letting what he does on the mound do the talking. Like, you think back, the moment that Met fans fell in love with him was Game 3 of the 2015 World Series. The one game they would happen to win in that series, when he threw the first pitch of the game behind Alcides Escobar's head, and the Met fans were forever in love with him after that. And, then the following year, when there was injuries to Harvey, there was injuries to DeGrom, and the Mets still would sneak into the playoffs as a wild card team, he would match Madison Bumgarner for 7 shutout innings before the bullpen would blow the game in the 9th inning, with Familia giving up a 3-run homer to, I believe it was Connor Gillespie of all people. But, it's not like this guy had some long, storied career here with the Mets. He was here for, 6 years. He had moments, but he also had times where he left you disappointed and left you wanting more. Remember all the talk about 7 years ago about how, the Mets were going to have this young, homegrown rotation, talking about Matt Harvey. He was the first to burst upon the scene. Noah Syndergaard, Zach Wheeler. Hell, Rafael Montero was more talked about than was Jacob deGrom. Jacob deGrom, until the spring training before he debuted 2014, was kind of an afterthought in this Mets organization. Hell, there was even that picture taken in spring training of 2015 with Bartolo Colon, Matt Harvey, Noah Syndergaard, Zach Wheeler, Jacob deGrom, and Steven Matz, that was put on the cover of Sports Illustrated. I believe had the caption title of "The Future Is Now," something talking about the young arms that the Mets have. And look what happened. Harvey came back from Tommy John, pitched too much, flamed out. Now he's trying to hang on. Noah Syndergaard would tear his UCL in spring training of 2020, pitched 2 innings the last 2 years. He's gone. Zach Wheeler had the best 2-year run of his Met career, his final 2 years here. Got a big deal from the Phillies, left as a free agent, and now he's getting better each year, believe it or not. He's now the ace of that staff, finished top 3 in the Cy Young voting. Steven Matz was with the Toronto Blue Jays this past year. And Jacob deGrom is the only one left, and he spent half the past year on the IL. So, these young arms, these young prospects, they can tend at times to break your heart. And I get Met fans saying, we like this guy. We wish he would have been a Met his entire career. But to act like this is one of the worst things that's ever happened for the Mets organization, the outcry about this has been a huge exaggeration the last couple of days. I'm not saying you're better off without him, because he's clearly a talented pitcher. But as talented as he is, he's been unreliable over the last couple of years, mostly in the health department. Did you really want to spend that kind of money on someone that's a big question mark, especially when you have a lot of question marks that got to be answered with this team? Do you decide to bring back Michael Conforto? Are you going to make additions in the bullpen? You've got to still fill out, 3 or 4 other spots in that starting rotation behind what you hope is a healthy Jacob deGrom. I'll tell you this much. When that contract was agreed to, somewhere Marcus Stroman was smiling. And Marcus Stroman, I'm not the biggest fan of in the world personally. I think he's can be a little bit too much sizzle and not enough steak at times. But he had a big year for the Mets this past year. Didn't show in the win-loss column because Mets didn't give him great run support. But he pitched very well. Actually, was kind of surprised he didn't make the All-Star team in the middle of the season. So he's going to be looking at a big payday, and he's looking at what Noah Syndergaard got and saying, hey, I've been healthy the last couple of years. I've been out there pitching. If he's getting $21 million, shouldn't I be getting at least $25 million? I mean, we've seen that is, unfortunately, it's the growing rate for starting pitching. Even if you're a guy that is a, kind of a middle of the pack starting pitcher, you're going to get paid big time. You're going to get the big bucks when it is your turn. So, no, Met fans, I get you like the guy, but it has very much been an over-exaggeration the way you guys are carrying on about Noah Syndergaard leaving as a free agent. All right, I'll get to more free agent stuff a little bit later on, even mixing a little bit of basketball thoughts as well. Got a lot of football to talk about today as well. You know, my experience at MetLife Stadium yesterday, some surprising things going on around the AFC East, and mix in a lot of other things around the NFL as well. So plenty to talk about for the next about 40 minutes or so here. I hope you stick with me. Sit back, relax, put your feet up, and continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting founder Dick Robinson.
You know, the media business has changed a lot since we opened our doors in 1964. Now media content is everywhere. On air, online, on the go. More than ever, companies are looking for people to help drive this new media.
At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, you'll get hands-on training on the latest software and equipment in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has placed thousands of grads in broadcast media careers.
It's all about versatility. You see, at a radio station, if you also know how to shoot, edit, and post videos, you become a pretty hot commodity. That's the training you get at Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with locations up and down the East Coast, from Massachusetts to Miami. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Connecticut School of Broadcasting, the nation's oldest and largest group of broadcast media schools, redefining training in radio, TV, and new media. Get trained. Get connected. 1-800-TV-RADIO.
I gotta admit, I am kind of physically exhausted here. I mean, the next, I don't mean to get too personal here with y'all, but the next month is going to be a grind.
I'll be back.
Yours truly, when it comes to just life in general, between work, coming here every Monday and doing this podcast, as well as the Jet. As many of you know, I am a New York Jets season ticket holder, so I'm at every home game with the exception of the Halloween game. So it's going to be very much a grind for yours truly the next month, with the fact that I work at Amazon. We're about to enter our peak season. That means a lot of 11-hour days coming up. So today is very much therapeutic for yours truly to just sit here, relax, talk about some sports, and really not give a damn what anyone thinks about my opinion, about whether you like what I have to say or you dislike it. And that's the biggest thing. See, I'm not of this cancel culture society. I believe as long as you are speaking something that has not been proven factually incorrect, speak your mind. Our voice is one of our great weapons in life. It's powerful. It's part of how we express ourselves. So if you've got a thought, you've got an opinion, if you're listening to this right now, it's always more than welcome. Hit me up on social media through Twitter at Keeping It Sports, or my personal Twitter account at M3Rosansky. Also on Instagram at keeping_it_sports_with_M3, as well as on Facebook. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/keepingitsports with M3. Now, I mentioned yesterday I was at MetLife Stadium for the Jets game against the Miami Dolphins, and there's only one good thing, let's face it, that has happened for the Jets recently. And that's the fact that the Seattle Seahawks keep losing games, including yesterday losing to Colt McCoy and the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, there's got to be something severely wrong with Kyler Murray, the fact that now he's missed 3 consecutive games. But Colt McCoy now going into Seattle 2 straight years as a backup quarterback, getting a surprising start and pulling off a victory against the Seahawks, who quite frankly look like a mess right now. Russell Wilson looks like a guy that hasn't played in a year rather than just a month. You've got Jamal Adams. That experiment has not worked, and that's coming after them locking him up to a big contract extension. So I'm as big a fan of Russell Wilson as I am. I'm very happy with all the losing that they are doing right now, because it may give the Jets a second top 5 draft pick. And let's face it, the Jets are going to be drafting in the top 5 of this coming year's NFL draft. Now, I came into this year with no grand illusions that they were going to win a lot of games. I was just asking for competency. But the last week is the true definition of no competency when it comes to this Jets organization. Because can someone tell me what was gained yesterday? And I'm not talking about, another good game from Michael Carter or another good game for Elijah Moore, who, after a slow start to his season, is really starting to pick it up. In fact, yesterday was the best I've gotten to see him in person, including seeing that 62-yard touchdown catch and run they had. I mean, I was standing in the FUBU Sports Lounge at MetLife Stadium, and he was running right toward us with that touchdown. It was just, it was such a cool moment to watch there in the third quarter. It just sucks that things kind of collapsed in the fourth, especially, I mean, you're going up against a Miami Dolphin team who doesn't even like their quarterback. Let's face it. I mean, to be for the owner to be dancing around and having inquiries with a guy that has 22 sexual misconduct allegations against him, and is probably going to face a suspension from the league, shows you how the Dolphins really feel about Tua, who's never healthy, always seems to have some kind of injury concern dating all the way back to college. And for the fact that he's barely played this year and the Jet defense allows him to just go out there and pick them apart, throw for damn near 300 yards against them. It was quite frankly, it was offensive. It was insulting at times, but that's what you get from the New York Jets. They insult your intelligence. They make you question a lot of things about you as a person, question things about your life, like why you do this. And it's just another part of my miserable existence as a New York Jets fan. Now, but I talked about before what was gained yesterday, and I wasn't talking about Michael Carter and Elijah Moore playing well. That's a positive, because those two guys, you hope, are pieces moving forward for the quarterback. The quarterback who moving forward will not be Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco, who's 36, 37 years old, he didn't even want to come back to the Jets as a free agent, chose to sign with the Eagles because he thought there was a better chance of him playing in Philadelphia than there was here, and That's been proven wrong, at least the last couple of weeks. But now, last week at this time, when I found out that Joe Flacco was going to be starting this game instead of Mike White, I'm like, why? No, Mike White. So let me get this straight. Mike White was good enough to be the starter against the Buffalo Bills, who have the number 1 ranked pass defense in this sport, or had it going into that game. He throws 4 interceptions against them, which should have been expected. I mean, you have to expect at some point Mike White was going to come back down to earth. But now you're facing the 32nd ranked pass defense of the vaunted pass rush of the Miami Dolphins. They're really going to get at you. And Mike White's not good enough to start against them. You have to start Joe Flacco, who's been back here for all of about 5 minutes. How in the world did that make sense yesterday? How in anyone's right mind was that the right thing to do? Because, yeah, Mike White could have gone out there, thrown another 2 interceptions, and it been, a blowout situation. But at least you're learning something. At least you're knowing whether this is a guy that you can keep around long term. Now, as I've said, Zach Wilson's going to be the starting quarterback for this team once they deem him healthy and ready to be back out there. And even though we've heard good reports in the last week, they clearly didn't think he was ready for this game, and who knows if they think he'll be ready to face the pitiful, woeful Houston Texans this coming Sunday afternoon. But no, at least having Mike White out there, you learn whether he's a guy that you can keep around as Zach Wilson's backup. Joe Flacco, we know it's near the end. We know he's going to retire soon. Now, there was no purpose of him playing. Hell, even Josh Johnson would have had a more deserving gripe of playing because he threw for 300 yards against the Colts. But even that I would have had a problem with because both of those guys are in the late stages of their NFL careers. White should have been out there playing. White should have been starting for the Jets. You can't go from, a couple of weeks where even the players, the coaching staff are saying Mike effing White, talking about how great he is, and then he has one bad game against the best pass defense in the sport, and suddenly he can't play against the worst pass defense in the sport. There's only one answer to this. There's only one logical answer onto why they did this. You know it. I know it. Gutlessness. Fear. Fear over the fact of, oh my God, what if Mike White goes out there and plays well again? No. We can't have Mike White go out and throw for another 300 yards and 2-3 touchdowns, because then we have a quarterback controversy on our hands. Controversy, however you pronounce the word. No, that would create all kinds of problems. That would create, a dynamic that the Jets do not want to have to face. Well, no, I said a couple weeks ago, when Zach's healthy, he would start because the number 2 overall pick gets more opportunities over the 5th rounder. But also, it lights a fire under Zach Wilson, knowing that, hey, they have this guy here that's played well, that the fan base likes, that the players in this locker room seem to get around and support. I better get myself going here if I really, truly want to be the guy long term. So that's the reason why they did this. Fear that it would create a quarterback controversy. And is that really the worst thing in the world? To to light a fire under the young kid to, force him to possibly grow up faster than he may be ready to. And to me, as I said, nothing, absolutely nothing was gained yesterday. I mean, something was gained for the Miami Dolphins. They got their 4th win of the season and put themselves, 2.5 games behind, or 3 games back now in the division standings. Division standings that have me, quite frankly, sick to my damn stomach. Because I said this after the Buffalo loss, that the only reason that I wasn't more disappointed, wasn't more heartbroken, is because A, Buffalo is more talented, and B, as annoying as I think some of the younger fans of the Buffalo Bills are, we have one thing in common, and that is our despisal, our utter hatred for the New England Patriots. And unfortunately, Michael Myers is back, people. The monster, the demon that we thought we killed, or at least thought somebody killed, continues to haunt and ruin our lives. Because we sit here on this Monday, November 22nd, and the New England Patriots, after 11 games this year, are in first place in the AFC East. And, it's a team that, let's face it, they're doing it with a rookie quarterback in their own right. And Mac Jones, don't get me wrong, he has played well, but he is only part of the ingredients here. He's not been the reason why they're getting it done, but he's been part of the reason. They've set up a system up there, led with the Josh McDaniels offense, to not have this kid make a lot of mistakes, have him, grow in confidence each and every week. But their offense these last 5 games has been mostly predicated on their ground game. And while they've all add in on that the fact that not only are they been very good running the football, but their defense has been stellar, especially the last 2 games, with how they stifled the Browns after the first quarter. And then last Thursday night, shutting out the Atlanta Falcons and, holding the Falcons to 2 for 11 on third down, getting 4 interceptions in the fourth quarter, holding the Falcons to 40 rushing yards, making them a one-dimensional offensive team. And I guess maybe this should have been expected because they were going to be getting a lot of veteran pieces back, guys that had opted out due to COVID last year, including Dante Hightower. Hell, they brought back an old favorite of Bill Belichick's in Kyle Van Noy after a brief stint with the Miami Dolphins. And we're left shaking our heads like, why does this keep happening? Why can we not get rid of the New England Patriots? Well, part of it is the fact that the Buffalo Bills, who were crowned as everybody's favorite in the AFC to reach the Super Bowl this year, are not holding up their end of the bargain to dominate this division. It was, I said it during the off season. It's very easy to be the hunter. We're going to see how you are when you are the hunted, when you're not surprising anybody anymore, when people know what tricks you have up your sleeve, and they know how to better strategize for you. And what do you know? Teams have started to figure that out with Buffalo. I mean, you look at 2 of the last 3 weeks, they've been forced to become a very one-dimensional football team. Not only can they not run the football, but they also cannot stop the run. Yesterday, Jonathan Taylor having a career day with 5 touchdowns, running for $180, even having a receiving touchdown. I mean, I'm looking up at the red zone highlights during commercial breaks at MetLife Stadium, and I'm seeing scoreboard 14-0. Then I'm seeing 24-7. Then at one point I look up and I see 38-7. And to make this all worse, the Buffalo Bills, they were at home yesterday. This wasn't like it was in Indianapolis. Sometimes good teams can sleepwalk on the road a little bit. We saw it last week with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when they lost down in our nation's capital. Buffalo was back at home in front of their rowdy crowd yesterday and still got their ass kicked. Like, come on, man. And I really can't even say anything about this right now because I got one friend of mine that is a Bills fan, but I know, and trust me, he's not one of these youngsters that is, thinking that the Buffalo Bills are all that in a bag of chips, thinking that this is just a given. He's been through the wars. He experienced the early 90s where they lost 4 consecutive Super Bowls, felt the pain that Buffalo Bills fans have truly experienced. Hell, he even laughed in my face after that heartbreaking loss to end the 2015 season. But as much as I dislike the Bills, they were my one hope to hold off the New England Patriots in this division. And now, unfortunately, because of them sliding, they've allowed, as I put them before, Michael Myers to come back to life. And now Belichick has his quarterback. He's got his defense back. And as we know, he's a very youngish, 68, 69 years old. Unfortunately, we might have buried them way, way too soon. All right, going to take another break here. I'll come back and recap the rest of the action from week number 11. Can't believe we're already saying that in the NFL. Continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting founder Dick Robinson.
The media business has changed a lot since we opened our doors in 1964. Now media content is everywhere. On air, online, on the go. More than ever, companies are looking for people to help drive this new media.
At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, you'll get hands-on training on the latest software and equipment in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has placed thousands of grads in broadcast media careers.
It's all about versatility. You see, at a radio station, if you also know how to shoot, edit, and post videos, you become a pretty hot commodity. That's the training you get at Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting with locations up and down the East Coast from Massachusetts to Miami. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Connecticut School of Broadcasting, the nation's oldest and largest group of broadcast media schools, redefining training in radio, TV, and new media. Get trained. Get connected. 1-800-TV-RADIO.
As I said a moment ago, I cannot believe it's already week 11 in the National Football League. That will close out tonight with the Giants and the Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. Giants probably as healthy as we've seen them all season long. It looks like, outside of the left tackle, Andrew Thomas, who I haven't heard any reports about him yet, but outside of him and some of his injury issues that he's been dealing with, sounds like they're going to be full stock offensively. Sounds like Barkley, for the first time in well over a month, is going to be back out there. Still missing, some key pieces on the defensive side of things. But remember, the Buccaneers are going to be without Antonio Brown and Rob Gronkowski still. So they are somewhat limited offensively, but then again, you do have the GOAT on the other side. So we shall see, as they say. Now, looking at the league yesterday, for as much as I was able to check things out at MetLife, even with the questionable cell phone service I was getting. Now, I'll continue to say this. I can't figure out what the hell's going on this season. It has been truly, week to week as far as who's truly good, who is, amongst the elite of the elite. I mean, you could argue we don't truly have a Super Bowl favorite right now. We don't have a team that you look at and you say, oh, I got them playing on Super Bowl Sunday. There's about 10 teams where you could pick their name out of a hat and they could win the Super Bowl. And then 20 people come up to you and say, there's this, and this, why I disagree on that. There's no consensus favorite right now. Because, with Arizona, we have to see how Kyler Murray is when he comes back. It's not just a video game here, folks. You can't just plop someone in and it's like, oh, they're fine. No, there is such a thing as rust in professional sports. But you look at some of the things that went on in the league this week. I thought maybe there'd be a little bit of a hangover for the San Francisco 49ers after such a huge victory on Monday Night Football against the Rams this week, sending the Rams into their bye week, licking their wounds. But they stayed strong and blew out the hopeless Jaguars, scoring on their first 5 possessions yesterday. Garoppolo having another pretty good game and continuing to keep Trey Lance on ice for now. But, yesterday in that game, I look at it with how Trevor Lawrence had kind of an average game. The fact that we haven't seen Trey Lance yet. The fact that Mac Jones is really the only one of these quarterbacks that is truly playing well. It continues to show why it's too early to make any kind of predictions, any kind of observations, any kind of bottom line opinions on any of these quarterbacks. These young quarterbacks, usually go to bad teams. There's some exceptions to that. New England last year had a lot of guys opt out. The 49ers had most of their star players injured last year. So, and we all thought that those two teams were pretty decent teams heading into last year. It was just a matter of, how they were going to handle their quarterback situations this year. So to make judgments on Lawrence, Wilson, and Fields right now might be a little bit too quick. Now, I know we're probably not going to see Justin Fields for a little bit because he got hurt yesterday, left in the third quarter against the Baltimore Ravens with ribs and what they're saying possibly a spleen injury. Probably won't suit up against the Lions on Thanksgiving. That will be Andy Dalton coming into play there. But it's not the worst thing in the world for the Bears, just considering, A, they weren't going anywhere this year to begin with. Now, they've lost 5 in a row, and they're without key members of the defense, including Khalil Mack having season-ending foot surgery. And B, gives him a chance to take a deep breath, considering he's working behind one of the worst offensive lines in football. Now, the Bears, their fifth consecutive loss yesterday was kind of heartbreaking with a late touchdown by Devontae Freeman of the Ravens to lose 16-13 in the last 25 seconds there. The big story with that was with how the Ravens did not have Lamar Jackson. About 90 minutes before kickoff was announced that due to unspecified illness that they're saying is not COVID, not influenza, something that he barely was causing him to barely be able to stand up on his own 2 feet, he was unable to play. The good thing for Baltimore is while he's not Lamar Jackson, no one will ever insult your intelligence and compare him to that. They were able to stick Tyler Huntley in there and run a similar style of offense. Now, he's not going to be able to dash you and throw down field like Lamar, but that's the key with having a backup quarterback, that when you put him in, A, he can be competent and still give you a chance to be competitive and win a football game, and B, that you don't have to turn over everything in your offense, because then that puts everything into disarray. That causes your entire team to be truly upended and can set you in, I don't want to say a downward spiral, but create kind of a messy situation there. And the Ravens, they get the victory, move to 7-3, move on to next Sunday where they will play the Cleveland Browns, who I thought the Cleveland Browns had the worst win of the week yesterday over the now 0-9-1 Detroit Lions. First off, God bless you, Billy August, for continuing to watch this team every single week. The fact that they're an even bigger train wreck than my New York Jets. But for the Browns to only beat the Lions by 3 points, when you knew going in yesterday that the Lions were going to be starting somebody named Tim Boyle, making his first NFL start due to Goff's oblique injury, and you could only muster 13 points against that team, kind of pathetic, especially with the big day Nick Chubb was having. Problem is, Baker Mayfield was turning over the football at will. And listen, I know he's playing with a lot of injuries right now. He's got the partially torn labrum in his left shoulder. For God's sakes, he's dealing with some lower body injuries as well. And you saw a little bit of the immaturity of Baker Mayfield after the game yesterday when, even in a winning effort, refused to talk to the media. But the Cleveland Browns, we expected so much more out of them coming into this season than being 6-5 at this point. They were expected to contend for the division, and they were talked about, I know I talked about them at least, as being one of my top 4 contenders in the AFC when it came to the Super Bowl. It was the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, and the Browns. Any order you want to put them in, those I thought were the top 4 teams in the AFC. And recently, they have looked like anything but that top 4 team. They've looked like a team that at minimum is wild card weekend and done. And maybe, they got rid of what was their ultimate distraction in Odell Beckham, the guy that could not fit there. But, Mayfield, has got to get things straightened out. Injuries, as long as you're out there, injuries are not an excuse. You're out there, you're expected to perform, especially when this is such a big year for you in a contract year, showing that you're the guy and you can handle the pressure of expectations. one that kind of surprised me yesterday was the Eagles against the Saints. The Eagles, just obliterating the Saints on the ground, running for 240 yards against them. A couple weeks ago, I thought I was of the mindset that maybe Nick Sirianni might be one and done in Philadelphia with how upset that fan base was, how they were, kind of treated as a laughing stock. But they've got that offense figured out on how to get the best out of Jalen Hurts, realizing that, we're not going to be able to change the quarterback situation right now. This is the best we've got. So let's build it, somewhat in the model of the Baltimore Ravens, where it's a running quarterback and we're built around him running the football a lot. Yeah, he's smallish compared to Lamar Jackson, but that takes advantage of his greatest strength. And for them to run for 240 yards against the third best rushing defense in the sport was a very impressive feat yesterday. Now, they did take advantage of a couple of Trevor Siemian interceptions, including the pick six by Darius Slay that kind of got that game out of hand right before halftime. But now you look at the Eagles, they're 5-6. They've gotten themselves back into the race when it comes to not just thinking about wild card, but even maybe thinking about the division. They're playing the Giants at MetLife next weekend. It will be the beginning of a kind of a quirk in the schedule where they're playing at MetLife Stadium on back-to-back weeks. First the Giants and then the Jets. But they've gotten themselves at least within shouting reach of the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC East. The Cowboys, who fell yesterday in Kansas City to the Chiefs, where the Cowboys had no offense. Dak Prescott turned the ball over 3 times. They never got the ground game going, and maybe it would help if you're actually giving your running backs the football. I never like seeing where you have a pass to run differential of 43-16. That doesn't set you up for good things. And add on top of that, the offensive line did not protect Prescott. Now, there were chances there for the Cowboys because Kansas City did nothing spectacular offensively. Yesterday, they went back into the slumber that they were in pre Raiders game. They went back to the Kansas City Chiefs where their offense, you can't seem to figure it out. They're acting a little bit too cool for school, if you ask me. And now the Cowboys, have only a couple of days to figure this out because they play again on Thanksgiving. Now, what will help is that they are facing a Raiders team that can't get out of its own way now. Lost their third in a row yesterday to the Cincinnati Bengals. And it looks like the emotions of everything that's happened to them this year with their head coach and with Henry Ruggs have started to catch up on them. They remain competitive to a certain point. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the inexplicable turnovers start happening, including, with Derek Carr having back-to-back turnovers with the interception to Eli Apple in the fourth, and then a fumble on a sack to Trey Hendrickson. That kind of sealed the deal. Got the Bengals out of a little bit of a slide, but continued the skid that the Raiders have been on as of late. The Titans lost to the Texans yesterday, ending their 6-game win streak. A lot of this was thanks to Ryan Tannehill throwing 4 interceptions inside the Texans' 30-yard line, gave Houston great field position all day. And Houston, they did just enough not to lose this game. I mean, the Titans moved the football all day against them, had 400 total yards. It was just that Tennessee kept turning over the football, had 5 total, including the 4 interceptions by Tannehill. Now, it doesn't get much easier for them. They take a drastic step up in competition by going up against a team next week in the Patriots that they may see again down the line in the postseason. And, talk about, confounding. I would have thought that Cam Newton coming back to the Panthers would give them some energy, give them some extra life. And he played well for the most part. The problem is they didn't have the football a lot. Washington dominated time of possession by running the ball, kept the Panthers to short drives by keeping them 2 for 9 on third down, and they were the worst team in the NFL on defense, defending third downs coming into yesterday, and pick up their 4th win of the season. Cam has done enough so far that warrants him being the starter. Even once Sam Darnold comes back, it's just, the Panthers are in a kind of a quandary situation, as I brought up last week. While Cam is showing he can still play, are they locked into him being their returning to being their long-term answer at quarterback? Remember, he's like my age. He's still 32, 33 years young, but this year for them was trying to get an evaluation and see what Sam Darnold could be. And unfortunately, with injuries and now ineffectiveness, they're not getting to see that. And finally, the Vikings won a slugfest against the Packers yesterday, 34-31. The Packers defense, let get away what was an amazing performance by Aaron Rodgers, who picked apart the Viking defense all day. Problem is, the Vikings have some pretty damn good weapons on that other side in their own right, including Justin Jefferson, who's continuing what is going to be an all-pro type season with another 2 touchdowns and 169 yards yesterday. It's funny. The Vikings' history has always been them missing game-winning field goals at the end. And this year, they're seemingly doing that, left and right. They did it against the Lions after that almost choke job they had a month ago. And now they've done it here to the Packers where, they led this game 23-10 at one point. And then Packers come rolling back. Rodgers, having a field day with Adams and Scantling, and turning this one into a real shootout. But I guess because the game was at 1 o'clock rather than, a prime time situation, that's when Kirk Cousins, shows up. Nightfall, don't expect anything from Kirk Cousins other than, ripping your heart out. Daytime, Kirk Cousins can be as good as anyone. Almost forgot this. I'll close this segment out with this. Sunday Night Football last night. Chargers over the Steelers 41-37. That almost was the ultimate Chargers kind of loss right there because they're dominating this game heading to the fourth quarter. You almost don't want to call this a comeback victory when the fact that they're up by 17 heading into the fourth, and then the Steelers score on 5 consecutive possessions to take a brief 37-34 lead, thanks to a lot of miscues by the Chargers. Getting a punt block that gave the Steelers the ball on the 3-yard line, set up an easy Najee Harris touchdown. Then Justin Herbert, a couple minutes later, throws an interception to Cameron Sutton. And you follow that up with, I don't get what Brandon Staley's obsession is with going for it on fourth down, especially in his own territory. I know they were getting through it and doing well with it early in the year, but eventually the laws of averages catches up to you. It bites you in the ass, and you're looking like a damn fool with how many times you go for it on fourth down. Just kick the ball away. You could see that the Steelers have momentum here, that they're coming back on you. Don't give them the potential of a short field, and instead, in a tie game, you're trying a fourth down in your own territory, and you set up an easy Chris Boswell go-ahead field goal. Your saving grace is that you have arguably the best young quarterback in the sport right now, a quarterback that half the teams in this sport would kill to have in Justin Herbert back there, who's cool, calm, poised under pressure, had another 300-plus yard, 3-touchdown game. In fact, became the youngest quarterback to have 300 yards and 90-plus rushing yards in the same game. I mean, it's amazing what he's doing. Every week he's seemingly breaking some new record for first and second year quarterbacks, and has left a lot of people around the league in envy in what this team has going forward. Going to take one last break here, come back, finish things up. This is Keeping It Sports with M3.
I'll be back.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting founder Dick Robinson.
The media business has changed a lot since we opened our doors in 1964. Now media content is everywhere. On air, online, on the go. More than ever, companies are looking for people to help drive this new media.
At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, you'll get hands-on training on the latest software and equipment in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has placed thousands of grads in broadcast media careers.
It's all about versatility. You see, at a radio station, if you also know how to shoot, edit, and post videos, you become a pretty hot commodity. That's the training you get at Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with locations up and down the East Coast from Massachusetts to Miami. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Connecticut School of Broadcasting, the nation's oldest and largest group of broadcast media schools, redefining training in radio, TV, and new media. Get trained. Get connected. 1-800-TV-RADIO.
Now, this has been one of the biggest stories across the sports world today. What happened in Detroit last night between the Lakers and the Pistons, when in the third quarter, on the rebound of a foul shot, LeBron James would elbow Isaiah Simmons in the face, busting him open, knocking him to the floor. And at the moment it happened, LeBron had his hands up, kind of seemed apologetic, and Simmons got up and was not taking any of that, was not feeling it. And I can understand why. Looking at the replay, you see LeBron kind of just like throw his elbow out and downward, at Simmons' head. I mean, that was a dangerous play, and I think LeBron justly got ejected from this game. Even without what happened afterwards, I think you had to throw him out. That was, even though LeBron has never been a dirty player, has never been the type of guy that commits dirty late hits, tries to hurt somebody. He's always trying to befriend all of the younger players across the NBA, but he ran into one of those guys that just was not feeling it, was not like, hey, this is Bush League, that I'm not accepting this apology from you. And Simmons, we saw how Simmons flipped out, how livid he was after this, because he kept trying to push through coaches, trainers, security, teammates, trying to get at not only LeBron James, but other members of the Lakers. And, he was a loose cannon. He deserved his ejection and deserves a fine and a suspension, because you can't have a situation like that. Especially not in that city, because it brings up in people's minds the malice at the palace 17 years ago. That's still such a fresh thought in people's minds, even 16, 17 years later, with the ugliest, what we all agree is the ugliest situation in NBA history, and changed a lot of the rules in the league. I mean, now whenever there's any kind of on the court skirmish, anybody who comes off the bench is deemed an instigator and will get a suspension, at least one game. I mean, we've seen it happen in playoff games. Remember, it cost the Phoenix Suns a postseason series with Amari Stoudemire coming like 2 feet off the bench. And that was last night. It was just 17 years, 2 days after that infamous incident between Ron Artest and Ben Wallace and the fans. But as much as Simmons is going to get suspended, I think LeBron deserves at least probably 2 game suspension for that, because that's unnatural. You just can't have that. There needs to be some fines and suspensions from some other guys on the Lakers, because something had to have been said for Isaiah Simmons to just flip out that badly, because you saw that one point where he came charging through about 8 or 9 people, could have hurt somebody. And when everyone was being separated, you saw he was still there was still some jawing coming from DeAndre Jordan. There was comments coming from Russell Westbrook. That's who I think he was trying to get at the second time he was charging back at them. He was trying to get to Russell Westbrook, who seemed incredibly heated, incredibly hot at that moment, and wanted to essentially incite the situation rather than calm it down. So now I think there needs to be some kind of punishments there. I mean, this really could have gotten ugly, people. You saw he went sprinting back to the locker room and almost pulled the end around, trying to come back out the Lakers side there. So while I have never thought LeBron James was a dirty player, that was beyond the rules. That was over the line. He deserves a suspension. Isaiah Simmons deserves a suspension. And there needs to be some kind of hefty punishment for both DeAndre Jordan and Russell Westbrook, because they did nothing to fan the flames of that spot, that situation. Now, talked about earlier, let's get back to baseball to close things out. Talked about earlier with Noah Syndergaard signing as a free agent with the Angels, and the tough spot the Mets were in, because the more I read over this last hour, it does not seem like they were given a chance to match that. It doesn't seem like Noah and his agent came back to the Mets, and make some of his comments over the last month about hoping that something is worked out, wanting to be a Met long term, look kind of hypocritical, look kind of ridiculous. But at the same time, that is the going rate for pitching across this sport, and shows you how precious pitching is, because there was a lot of interest in him. Reportedly, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Blue Jays all expressed some amount of interest in Noah Syndergaard. And once Syndergaard got 1 year, $21 million, that upped the ante for other pitchers around the league and made Justin Verlander, who's coming off Tommy John surgery in his own right, even more valuable, even more of a commodity than the future Hall of Famer already is. Even for when he takes the mound next spring, whenever the season starts, it'll be the first time that he has thrown a pitch in a real big league game since the postseason of 2019, over 2.5 years. After a lot of rumors, speculation that, maybe this was a bidding war between the Yankees and the Dodgers, he ended up signing 1 year with the Houston Astros for $25 million with a player option for the 2023 season. And listen, I was slightly disappointed because as much as I get on Verlander for how he seems to always have a comment for everything, he's a guy that I would not mind having on my team. He's been a dominant pitcher for a long time. The fact that he's over in his bullpen sessions coming back from this, he's already throwing 96 miles an hour, shows that he's got himself in pretty good shape and is recovering remarkably well at this late stage of his career from Tommy John, and probably only has a couple of years left, but wants to go out showing the best of himself. Does not want to be one of those guys that just slumps to the finish line. So I would have liked to have seen that in pinstripes. Plus, it doesn't help having Kate Upton in the stands at a bunch of Yankee games at Yankee Stadium. But that was a little bit disappointing. And now the Yankees are going to have to look elsewhere because they do need to add a pitcher, by my estimation, this offseason. You look at, as long as he's healthy, I think Garrett Cole is a lock to be one of the top 5 to 10 pitchers in the sport next year. He's shown us nothing to believe he won't be. He never made an excuse about the hamstring injury. Scott Boras was the one in the last couple of weeks that has said that was a problem the last month, but he pitched his way through it, and you could clearly see at times that it was an issue for him, and we know how important the legs are for pitchers. But you're looking at a situation with the Yankee rotation where it's Cole and then question marks, because Severino, he came back and pitched well in relief in September, but what he pitched, like 6 innings, something like that. And those are the only 5-6 innings he's pitched in the last 2 years. Hell, it's been since the 2018 season where he pitched the full season as a starter. He missed most of 2019 due to a various of injuries. What are you going to be able to count on from him next year? Jordan Montgomery, I like him, but I think there's a limit to what Jordan Montgomery is, and that's being a number 3, preferably 4 type starter, a guy who's competent, guy who goes out there and will be competitive for you once every 5 days, but not someone that you're relying on to be an anchor in your rotation. Jamison Taillon, who started to pitch well in the middle of the summer, but then some foot issues hampered him down the stretch and would eventually need surgery on plantar fasciitis. It doesn't sound like he's going to be ready for the start of the season. And then after that, you've got Domingo Germán, who never stays healthy. I mean, he always somewhere around end of June, beginning of July, usually has a 3-week stint on the IL somewhere. And you have a bunch of kids who, while you like the potential and promise of guys like Luis Gil, who showed some good things at times, and Davy Garcia, who was good in 2020 but had an awful season in the minor leagues, those kids clearly aren't ready. Clark Schmidt always is dealing with some kind of injury issue in his own right, making me wonder if he's going to be more of a bullpen guy going forward for this team. So they need to add some starting pitching. I don't know whether they're not going to go out there and sign Marcus Stroman. It's clear that the organization and him can't stand each other. That marriage will never happen. But, would Max Scherzer ever consider coming to the Yankees? He's a free agent. Or do you go out there and make a big trade for a guy like Luis Castillo, who the Yankees have been rumored to be attached to for the better part of the last 2 years? There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of things that have got to be answered with this pitching staff. And it's the beginning of what you hope is an active offseason for the Yankees. Now, listen, we're a week and a half away from the sport, shutting down, and hopefully they do their negotiations of the CBA in a peaceful manner. But there's going to be questions that got to be answered with the Yankees. Starting rotation, first base, what are they going to do there? I'm telling you, it's going to be one of two people. It's going to be either Anthony Rizzo or a trade for Matt Olsen of the A's, because the Yankees have a lot of prospects that people like. That's why you saw on Friday the Yankees DFA 3 players off their 40-man roster because they had to protect certain prospects that were eligible for the Rule 5 draft. You saw them DFA Tyler Wade, who was earlier today traded to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. They DFA'd Rougned Odor, who the Texas Rangers are covering the rest of his contract. And they DFA'd a guy that I like, but clearly can't stay healthy in Clint Frazier, who knows if he's even ever going to be able to play baseball again, because this vertigo is turning out to be a real problem for him, causing blurry vision for him. And last time I checked, you have to actually see the baseball to hit the baseball. So, unfortunately, it stinks that he's in that situation, but the Yankees had to, and rightfully so, move on from him for their betterment and for clearing up a 40-man roster spot. Hopefully, he can continue his career elsewhere. And then there's the questions surrounding the shortstop position. Are they going to go after one of the big free agent shortstops, or do they love these kids, Anthony Volpe and Oswald Peraza, so much that they just go with a stopgap guy like an Andrelton Simmons on a 1-year deal until they're ready? Now, the thing about that is, I think a guy like Peraza is going to have to be used in the deal to get Matt Olsen. To get something good, you got to give up something you like. So both of them are not going to be able to play shortstop in the future for the Yankees. But, you have to remember that this is a different Yankees than the old George Steinbrenner Yankees. Old days, you wouldn't even have thought about this. Go out there, sign Corey Seager, pay Max Scherzer whatever he wants to come here, and then trade for Matt Olsen and call it a day. But they have other things that they have to think about, including the contract extension for Aaron Judge, which for the first time last week, Brian Cashman mentioned that as a possibility. And, I've said it before, just as much as I want to win, how many $30 million guys can you have on a payroll and still be considered financially responsible? So it's an interesting offseason that the Yankees are about to embark on, that they're about to have. And, we'll see how they plan on doing this. With first base. Now, clearly Luke Voit is not the answer. At shortstop, do they decide to go? Seager's the guy for me if you're signing a one of the big free agents, because he's a left-handed hitter. But, no, do they decide that they really love Anthony Volpe that much that they go short gap with a stopgap at shortstop? And starting pitching, like quarterbacks in the NFL, like goalies in the NHL, it's such a key to your success. Good starting pitching shuts down good offense any day of the week. And right now, the Yankees have a lot of question marks in that starting rotation that they've got to answer over the next several months. And that, my friends, was Keeping It Sports on M3 for Monday, November 22nd, 2021. Everyone have a great night. Have a great week. Stay safe. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Hell, if you're going out on Wednesday night, enjoy your Thanksgiving Eve. And I'll talk to you guys again, same time next week. Until then, peace. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
We have to go. Good night, everybody.
I have had enough of you!
Thank you for all the fun. Thank you. Hey, shut up, will ya?
I don't want to see you, I don't want to hear you, I don't want to smell you. Now leave. I'll be back.